So let's talk about exporting IGES files. This is actually a pretty common thing to do, although most people these days use step files instead. But if we're going to put model export IGES, by default it's going to use the active model. You can also specify a different file name or a subdirectory and new file name if you want to. And then also some various configuration settings for the IGES export. Now, most of the IGES settings are actually controlled by the config.pro based on the spec that you're using for the IGES exports of the profiles. But in this particular case, we're just going to take the default as it is right now. And let's actually open up a smaller model. So let's take a look at like basket here. So if I run this as it is, you'll notice that it has actually generated the IGES file. And if I open this up, you'll notice that it detects it as a component and does a pretty decent job bringing that in. So let's take a look at doing this a little bit different way. So if we were to generate these, I'm going to delete this file. If we're going to generate these or have a bunch of these to generate, typically you want to stick this in a subfolder. So I'm going to create a subfolder, but I'm first going to delete this subfolder. So we're going to say my IGES files, and then we're going to create it afterwards. Now the reason we're doing this is that we want to be able to have a clean export location for the data that we're going to be writing. So I'm going to put this as my target directory. Basket, it's going to be the name of it. And then we'll just do basket.prt just to be specific about it. And just to show you that we can do other things with this, let's also open up, let's do our assembly here. And maybe we'll do the speaker assembly also. And we'll call this my speaker. And maybe one other component. Let's do spider.prt. Call this my spider. Okay. So when I run this, it's going to delete the directory, create the directory, and also export out the IGES files there. You'll notice also that it's writing out the log files. This is another good reason for using a subdirectory is that it will actually help you to kind of collect those log files into a better location so that they're not cluttering things up. But as you can see here, as I've opened each of these up and import them back into Creo, they're coming back in just fine. So that's just a good example of how to use the export IGES. There is a table variation on this that we recommend you take a closer look at because it is a little bit more flexible than this kind of one at a time command structure that is shown here.